Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey, everybody. I am thrilled to introduce my guest today, Dr. Marie-Helene Pelletier, better known as MH, which is also a handy reference for mental health. MH brings a signature mix of business and psychology. Holding both a Ph.D. and an MBA, she translates psychology research into strategies professionals, leaders, and their teams need to thrive. MH shares what psychologists know, but other professionals and leaders may not, specifically the intersection of high performance and strong workplace mental health. She has over 20 years of experience as a leadership psychologist, executive coach, and senior leader in the corporate, insurance, and governance sectors. Her award-winning book, The Resilience Plan, A Strategic Approach to Optimizing Your Work Performance and Mental Health, was named a top 5 book to read by Inc. magazine and Forbes. Please join me in welcoming Dr. M.H. Pelletier. Welcome, M.H.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. It's great to be here.
I am really delighted to have you here. I think the whole topic of mental health in the workplace it's a hot topic, but it's not going away. And I think we'll get into that in a little bit. But as you know, on Work from the Inside Out, we love to begin at the beginning and talk a little bit about your formative years and get an understanding of how those years may or may not have informed where you are today. But take us back there a little bit and tell us a little bit about your younger self.
Well, I was thinking about our conversation and reflecting further on this. Some of the decisions and choices I've had to make, like for many people, but represented some risk. And so then I was looking at, where did that happen? Because both of my parents did not have risky jobs necessarily. But one of the things we did as a family, with my sister as well, is we would go in the nature. We would work outdoors or go and do outdoors activities quite a bit, and which always felt like an adventure. And in a number of ways were risks sometimes. And I enjoyed that very much. So I think, that is where potentially I got some of that interest in exploring, being open to experimenting sometimes with things that may or may not work, then still enjoying the process even when it doesn't, and just keeping going and exploring. I think that's potentially part of where that part's coming from.
Yeah. Oh, and tell where did you grow up?
Quebec City.
Quebec City.
That's
okay.
Where the long French complicated name that no one could have predicted would work for mental health.
Right. Well,
I discovered this completely by chance. Actually, much later in my career, I'm working at Sun Life Financial, and we're in a group email, and someone says, "What are we going to do about MH?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what are they going to do about me?" What it meant was mental health, and I was like, "Oh, isn't that funny?" So I did not even clue in that soon. But yeah, that's funny. So, but anyway, Quebec City was where I was. Another piece that, again, linking to, so what the kinds of things I'm doing now that were there, again, not predicting at all, but then potentially connecting anyway.
Sure.
So one was that during my late teenager, mid to late teenage years, was had the chance to join a group that was doing singing and dancing and doing shows fairly in some different countries. So not all like in Quebec City. Some of them were in France, in Switzerland, and that kind of thing. But that was, so it's very different, of course, from what I do now. But the one connection is as I became a speaker on larger stages, and of course I'm training and developing my craft and my skills and all that kind of thing. So anyway, you get to a point where, the stages will be large enough that you will not see the audience because the lights are so bright.
Right.
And that was a thing for a number of my colleagues to learn, get used to, because one of the important, useful things is to connect with your audience, see their face and all that.
Yeah.
Then I realized, I'm completely used to this because I've done this before. So again, not knowing at all that it would turn out to be useful here, but it's one of the things then.
Yeah. So when you were, a child or, an emerging adult, did you have any idea that you were on the path to getting your doctorate, your MBA, writing a book, and all the things that you've come to do? I mean, what were did you have specific aspirations or ideas about who you wanted to be or things that you were interested in as a younger person? I think many of us sort of surprise ourselves with, when I was little, I used to think about this and that, and, none of that happened. I became something completely different. And I'm just curious, like, what were maybe things that just never connected or were just different for you?
Well, I was not very specific in saying I'm going to do this, and therefore, it would be easy to say, "Oh, well, I did not do that at all."
Yeah.
So I was not actually committing to something specific, as much as they were very much trying to invite us to do
that,
right? But no, I don't remember saying a thing like, this is the thing. I was interested in science in general. Having information, knowledge, research, all of that kind of thing. And so that was there. And I liked school. I liked learning.
You did?
Yes, that does connect on that front.
Sure.
But I wasn't like, I'm going to be a firefighter and do something else. So I didn't have that specific. Yeah.
Yeah. So take us forward from there. So you grew up in Quebec City most of your younger years?
Yes. And then, so in Quebec City, in this education system, as some people know, you don't do high school and then university if you're going to keep going. You do high school, and then there's a kind of a college 2-year here, and then you enter university. So high school goes until grade 12 instead of, the equivalent of grade 11, as grade 12. So it's like we have an extra year when we basically start university.
Okay.
It's the way it is. So for me, I did that college thing, knowing that I was interested in science, but I was still not clear on exactly what area, what to do. So I ended up picking the sort of pure and applied sciences type of focus. But because I thought maybe I'll be interested in psychology, I'm going to do the one psychology course that was required if I were to do that. And it was one of my lowest grades. Like I was also doing like physics and chemistry and all these other things that to me sounded much more complicated than that particular psychology course. But now did not do well there. So if I had listened to my grades, not what I would have done. That changed after that. But that was that. Anyway, then decided to, still was not crystal clear on what I was interested in. Applied in different areas, ended up doing psychology first and then carried on from there. But it was still, when I started, still experiment level. Like, okay, well, let's see. Yeah.
So even though you have that 2-year, I guess I never knew that, even though I don't live even that far from Quebec City. I didn't realize there was that like 11th grade and then the 2-year and then you go on to university. I don't know why I never knew that before, but
the only place where it's like that. So
really?
Yeah, that's only in the province of Quebec. It's not in other provinces.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. So even then, and I don't think it's that unusual at that point in your life. A lot of people, I think, get pressured into having to fit into a slot somewhere or declare a major, and they're not really ready to. But it's interesting that you did, given that psychology wasn't, a stellar grade for you, that you did end up focusing on psychology. So what compelled you to move in that direction?
That specifically, I'm not sure. I was considering various options, and I think and I don't remember. I know I was reading a lot about different things, including psychology, and finding that interesting. Decided to just focus there. And I don't know if that's still like this, but it was like a clear bachelor degree in psychology. It was not like a major in anything. It was like 100% of what, that's how the degree is designed. It's just like a law degree. In Quebec, would actually go in and do a law degree to start with, like that. Those systems are a bit different in that sense as well. But went right in. But very quickly as I started, I saw, okay, no, I'm doing this. It was not just, I'm going to finish my bachelor and then see, or carry on and then see. No. Once I started, I was like, oh, okay, I am interested in this. And it's an important thing in that particular field, which is even more true now, because it's so hard to get into graduate school after this, that you better decide fairly early that this is part of your goal, unless you're like naturally genius or whatever. But for most normal people, we have to work to build what's, I was going to say what's necessary. Sometimes even if you have all the necessary things, it works. Sometimes it doesn't. So, but to do all you can anyway.
Right. Well, and then there's different areas of psychology in terms of graduate school. I was curious, since you did have all that science behind you when you were studying psychology undergrad, were you studying it through more of a social science, sort of sciencey research lens, or was it more broader based than that?
So that at the time when I did it, which could be different now, but it was we had some choices, but not too many in terms of what the courses were going to look like. You made that kind of decision more when you were doing your master's and your PhD and the type of research you would do. One of the things I did to help me figure out what I would do next was during those years of the bachelor degree, I worked in, I don't know how many, at least 6 different laboratories. And and very diverse. So I worked in very fundamental research. They were doing research with cats, and I was managing the cats and getting them through the study that they were doing. I was doing social studies of teenagers and their social patterns. I was taking the pipe bomb scar to go interview teenagers in their home and map their social life. Then I was also doing in a gambling lab, doing research with individuals' perceptions of how much can you guess what the next thing's going to be, whatever, gambling thing. Like literally so broad. And then others, I'm not even listing all of them. So extremely diverse.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a way to make money. Obviously, they were jobs, very part-time jobs, but they were also very helpful in helping me see what I may be interested in doing more of down the road.
No, I mean, what an amazing opportunity, at least that you afforded yourself to do, because I was also a psychology undergrad, and I know there are really very diverse directions that you can go in. When people say, you studied psychology, there really are distinct different directions you can go in.
Yeah.
And so in a way, having all those different jobs was really like you were trying out all these different pathways that could have taken you in very distinct and different career paths, different directions, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Now, when you were doing those different jobs, did one of them kind of stick with you more than another? Did it help to start to steer you in a particular direction, or were you still trying to figure that out?
No, it helped. And other things helped as well, because during the bachelor as well, towards the end, there were courses that, I don't know if you had that too, but where, say, for 1 year, we were a team of 4, we are still like some of my best friends to this day, work together on, it was almost like a mini research project. It was a mini a mini research project, which felt like a mini master's. But then you were working within a certain laboratory with a certain professor and their team and that kind of thing. So that was also helping inform. So between my growing knowledge due to the courses and these different experiences, yes, it started showing me my direction for my next step. Yes, it did. And it was broader than, it was in part what type of work I'm interested in, but it was also, as I worked in these different labs,
Mm-hmm.
I was also learning and I'm realizing it now as we were talking. I did not
Sure.
consciously say this or think
Right.
this time, but I was learning how different professors work, how their labs are set up, how would they value, because most of the time they would bring us research assistants in sort of broader lab meetings where their doctoral students would be, their master's students, they would discuss different things. And so that also allowed me to see, okay, so for me, what type of, in this case, leader almost, I wanted to have, right, for my next step. So that also helped inform where I decided to take my next steps. Yeah.
So now I want to know, what did you decide?
Yeah.
And how did you, like, what sort of tugged at you, or what direction did you go in?
Yeah. So decided to do my master's research was follow-up studies of treatment studies that had been done with individuals 6 months and 5 years prior for individuals who had panic disorder.
Oh, wow.
And so I was doing follow-up studies to see if the therapeutic gains were still there after 6 months and after 5 years.
Wow.
So that was the study I ended up doing in the lab that actually was supporting that 4th-year project that we had done as a team.
Oh,
I very much had enjoyed the way things were, the quality and the depth and the breadth and the culture, all that.
that's interesting then. So part of what appealed to you about doing that wasn't just the topic itself. It was also being in a lab, or being within an infrastructure and an organization, let's say, where you liked the way things were run. Maybe you felt good about the way your learning was being supported, or the kinds of supports or other things, people you were around. So it could have been that at that same lab, the way it was run, that they were working on research about depression or some other treatments for people with other mental health challenges.
Well, it was a lab that was focused on anxiety in general. So there were other, yes. So that was one of the areas. But see, again, and the other thing that as we're talking, I'm reflecting back on. So the professor in that lab, when you work in a lab at these levels in the larger lab, you often end up working with a doctoral student. So that was really great as well. But the ultimate leader, right, in person in charge is the professor. So that professor, which is still a mentor to this day for me, at the time was in his 2nd term leading the Canadian Psychological Association as president, and did not at the time consciously choose that particular lab for that reason, but probably did consider it, even if I was new and green and not fully understanding what all that meant, which now I do much more.
Yeah.
Having been on that board myself in the past few years. But it was, I think, a level of engagement with the profession that, number one, was fairly practical, right? Just the fact that I was able to do a follow-up study to things like this. So we're not in the depth of theory over here, which is very important, but less what I was naturally drawn towards. So that was part of this. But I was probably valuing that the investment, the contributions to the profession were broad and diverse.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked the question a moment ago and saying, well, it could have been you were studying depression or something else, is because I've noticed over the years I've been coaching people that when they are in an environment where the leader or leadership is aligned with their own values, just it works well for them. Sometimes it matters less exactly what they're doing or what they're focused on, if the sort of culture climate of the organization, so to speak, is feeling good to them. And yes, there has to be alignment with what they're interested in, but there is wiggle room there if that's the right environment for you too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. And I think it's true. And I've been at moments where I did not follow that logic, and it would have been a good one to follow. But in this particular case, and also there's this element, I think also a bit about, that's not true. I was going to say that maybe even more true early career when, we're still potentially experimenting and all this.
Sure.
But necessarily. Sometimes I work in my own executive coaching work with individuals who are much later in their career. And the same actually applies. In fact, possibly is even more centerpiece where, they in general do this kind of thing, but to work with this team, I'm going to do that. Absolutely. So I think you're 100% right. Probably 100% of the time, because that is a key thing to pay attention to. And at least if we're not picking it, to maybe make that decision in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Deliberate, like with our eyes open.
Yeah. And sometimes those things can be subtle when we're talking about, the culture of an organization or what's going on in the environment. But it does seem like the way you were describing it, the fact that you had all these other places that you had the chance to experiment within. Well, I'm amazed that you had that many different jobs that you were able to do that. But it sounds like it was somewhat intentional on your part to really give yourself a chance to try a bunch of different labs or work in a bunch of different places. I don't know if that was part of a kind of a shopping around strategy, thinking, well, I'm going to want to go and get my master's here, so I got to figure out who I might want to work with. No, it wasn't that at all.
It was not that deliberate. From what I remember, I think I knew that I wanted to ideally work. I mean, I wanted to work, obviously. So that was, and I had a preference for it to work within my department, because that's also efficient, because I'm already there for courses, might as well do that. Right. Although some of the jobs took me out of campus, really. And they were not all at the same time, just so we know as well.
Right. They
were spread over to looks pretty decent. But I was doing fairly long days. I would arrive early morning and leave at 10 p.m. most days, because that, does at some point take time to do all of this. So not conscious effort, probably conscious was, yes, let's explore. Yes, let's see what's there, but not specifically, now let's do that next. Plus, it's not like we were calling the shots. Jobs were becoming available here and there. And do you apply for it or do you not? And I was just probably more on the, yes, I'm applying.
It sounds like you were very proactive, but I made up a little bit of a scenario there, but it certainly, you were pretty proactive. I don't know if you had a lot of other fellow students who were also doing quite as many lab jobs as you did over those years.
I don't know. Some were doing some, that I remember, of course, but that level of sort of diverse.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. No, I don't remember that.
That was a lot of different experiences. So, and then that lab where you really liked that environment, that led you right into, you went right into the master's program from there?
Yes.
Yeah. And then the PhD. So was it all?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
No. It was so not.
Okay. Tell me. I'm going to stop writing your life story for you.
No. It's a very normal path and assumption. That's most of the time how it works.
Yeah.
But two things happen. So number one, at the time in the province of Quebec, the registration and the level of entry in the profession was master's.
Okay.
So it was not understood that we all had to keep moving forward with a PhD. Far from it.
Yeah.
Two of the team of 4 here that I was mentioning earlier, 2 of these colleagues did end up doing PhDs, 1 did not. And at the time, I was not setting my sight on doing one of those either.
Oh, okay.
No.
Got it.
No. So that was going to be it. It was complete, and that was final. That was that.
And it was a master's in, was it a specific type of psychology or?
So the formal title of it, no, that was master's in psychology. It was clinical. because I was doing that's the department I was in, and it was working with diagnosis levels,
Sure.
panic disorder. But yeah, no, different provinces again have different regulations about this. So even here, say in British Columbia, where I'm a registered psychologist, we're required not to specify. So you're not a clinical psychologist or a counseling psychologist, you're a psychologist. That's it.
Interesting.
Whereas in other provinces or states, you're actually required to declare the exact nature of your specialization. So it varies quite a bit.
That's confusing, but I understand. Yeah. No, when I was an undergrad, I definitely had my sights set on going into a master's / PhD. It was going to be all one and the same. So you completed the master's, not necessarily intending for the PhD at that point. So what happened to you then?
So my, at the time, boyfriend, we're now together and still together. So Nick also finished at the same time. Nick was in mining and had a job, like a signed job with a salary in February and we were all finishing our schooling in April or May. So, and that job was, of course, in northern Quebec, because mines are not in major cities. They are all isolated, remote areas.
Okay. Yeah.
So we moved up there. And because I knew I was going to a much smaller community where the needs were broader and the amount of psychologists was smaller, before going, I took a few extra training in different additional things to be able to work in a broader set of areas. For example, doing court assessment, right? You don't just start doing this. I had supervision here. We had that, there in Quebec City. And then I was able to go do that there. Ended up in year one, post-graduation, with the possibly most diverse resume one could ever have, because you're in a small remote area. And so you need supervision, of course, to do most of what you do, because you're new at most of what you do. But with that appropriate supervision, I ended up working in everywhere: schools, hospital, private practice, court assessments, 3 cities that were close to each other.
Wow.
And so I ended up doing this. But within the first few months, we decided we did not want to stay there longer term. And so then we said, what do we want to do? And I said, well, there's a program at UBC I'm interested in. We had never been to Vancouver or whatever. And I did not apply to anything else, which I know makes 0 sense whatsoever.
That comes under the category of taking a risk, right?
I think it was ignorance.
Oh, okay.
But there were a few extra hurdles and all this, but it did work out in the end. And so that's what
you had decided to go for the PhD then, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And what kind of a program was it?
So this was in the counseling psychology program.
Okay.
Because part of what had happened is, having been up north and having seen at the time, so this is now over 20 years ago. So this prior to internet connection, global, anything, none of this. Right. And so I was up there seeing people needing specialized skills and expertise, which was not there, and not getting it because we're isolated and remote. Right. So when came the time to do my research, I said, I'm going to do research in what was called then telehealth, which was the delivery of psychological services using video conferencing, which I had to explain every single time. Right. I had to get funding to do it because you could not use the internet. So I was using 6 telephone lines to transmit video and audio data. It was complicated.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So that research, I was providing, it was a treatment study of individuals with social anxiety disorder. So I was still in anxiety, clinical population, but using this mode of delivery, which now sounds very obvious, but at the time, people considering this ambitious and not in the right way. It was like,
wow.
Yeah.
So you moved.
Yes.
All the way over and started that, and then did the research on with the telehealth and panic disorders and
At the time, well, that one was not with panic disorder. It was with social anxiety
Social
disorder.
anxiety. Okay.
Yeah, still another, actually, not just another. It is the most prevalent of all social and of all anxiety disorders. That was my rationale for using this one for this study, since there was so little at the time. But there were a few hurdles. I did not get in year one. I got in after a year. And so the first year I was here and, trying to find a job, trying to get into this degree. And because I had moved province, and this province, now it's true for all provinces, including Quebec. But at the time, like I said, Quebec was master's degree entry, and British Columbia was Ph.D. Level entry. And no, there wasn't an interprovincial agreements, which now there are. There was none of this. So I moved here and lost my title, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. No, not easy. So applied for a number of different types of roles. And at some point got to a point where I thought, well, maybe I'll have to just take any job for right now, just pay the bills and then build back or whatever. And, but one of the things I had done is I had the head office of one of the key employee and family assistance programs I had worked for up north in Quebec. Their head office was in Vancouver. So I went to them and I said, I'm here, but, I was one of 3,000 mental health professionals in the country that do some hours for them at times. So they were very nice still to me, but they said, we only hire PhD psychologists. I said, okay. And the CEO, Dr. Bob Wilson, said, we had talked and he had shared some of the things they're working on, and that was it. And they all said, goodbye, thank you, goodbye. But one of the things he had talked to me about, I thought, I can write a report on this and provide recommendations and show them what I can do for them. So I went to the library at UBC, which I was not a student of, but you can go in and read articles. And none of this was online like it is now, obviously.
Right.
Wrote a report, wrote recommendations, printed that, 2 copies, envelope, and I showed up back to their head office in Vancouver. Unannounced, unbooked, on anything. And so reception, I say, is there a chance I could just hand deliver this? So Bob Wilson walks back, sleeves rolled. He's like clearly busy doing something else. Comes to the front desk, a bit probably prepared to say,
what's she doing here again?
Really we're all moving on. And I said, I don't want to talk to you. Here is something for you to look at. And I actually probably left before he turned around. Like I was so not wanting to intrude or anything. I just said, no, take it. That's it. I'm out. So, and then I got a call a few weeks later saying, we're going to create a role full-time. Are you interested? We need more of this. Yes, I am. Yes.
Now, when you did all of that work, putting that report together and all that, what were you intending or hoping for? Or
I was probably hoping they would see some value, or I think I was planting a seed. Mostly that's probably what I would have said there. You never know where it's going to go. I'm going to try this. Plus, I was also at a stage like almost nothing to lose, because at that point I had applied to all the things I could probably find. Yeah. I was going to turn to just other jobs that were not in my line of work, but that would help me pay the bills for right now. I was interested, actually just interested. It was interesting what they were doing. And I just like research. So, okay, fine. But obviously I did it for more than just my own interest. Sure. But I think that was the approach. So it was not an expectation or anything certain, certainly, but I was planting a seed.
So I'm curious. So you had applied to the PhD program, and did you not get in, or did they defer you? What was the situation with them?
They said, we need you to do additional courses because you're coming from this other province. Some of these courses got done, blah, blah, blah. And so, so they were, do these courses first. And then we'll consider. But
I see. So there were no guarantees then that if you did those additional courses, that would still be an option. So you were really living with a lot of hope and a lot of unknowns, right?
Yes.
And your boyfriend had moved all the way over there with you to pursue something different. But that was his line of work wasn't necessarily in Vancouver.
No, but what happened is, well, so we actually did not move exactly at the same time. I moved here first. He actually went and worked up north on Victoria Island, which is at the top of the planet, to make enough money for him to be able to move. And so then he joined me after 5 months, which at the time was long because connections, it was not like cellular
it's not like now, right.
Yeah. So joined me then. And then, but for him, he turned to consulting then here.
I see.
So that's how that became possible. Yes.
So it sounds like through that period of time that there was just, I mean, I'm having this image of there's just something within your being or your core that just propelled you forward without having any idea that any of this would really work out. And yet you just kept moving forward anyway.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
But they offered you a job pretty quickly. So what was the job?
I think they called it at the time research and clinical associate, fairly broad title, which meant I was helping with research projects that they were doing internally as an industry, helping with some clinical parts of what they were doing, but not doing clinical work because I was not authorized to do that. I was writing educational pamphlets that I remember for their clients. They needed that. So it was just a very broad, open type of title, which was, but in the end, I mean, now that, because then I moved up in this organization and did most roles really.
Oh, really?
Really seeing it now from a distance. I mean, in one of the really beautiful recommendation letters that Bob Wilson wrote for me as I proceeded with other things after that, he said something along the lines of, she came at a time where we could not afford to hire someone, but we could not afford not to hire her either.
Wow.
And that's a bit of, anyway, it's beautiful, isn't it? Like,
it is
I
nice.
didn't actually consciously memorize it, but I remember it because oh my God, that was a beautiful thing to say. But at the same time, it's true, but because at the time they had all of these clinical PhD people, and then they had non-clinical people doing all kinds of other things. And in a way, someone with this particular training and background and that was a useful bridge for...
Absolutely.
Right? Now that we look at it.
Yeah.
So that was me.
Wow. I love it. I love this. I mean, I just love the way you found your way through on the things that mattered to you and it came through. So you started that new job and it sounds like you stayed with that organization for quite some time.
I know, I did. I stayed part-time and then full-time and in different roles over the years. Yes.
Yeah. And got into the PhD program.
Did. Yes.
So take us forward there, because I know there's another degree coming.
Yes. Well, so I did.
But tell us about the PhD as well, of course.
So I did that one, working still part-time, but full-time PhD degree. And the research that I was describing earlier did require me to have a lot of funding. Right? Because I was using technology that was at the time very expensive. I needed to have different sites with full sort of equipment and to be able to see each other and do what's now all day, every day for most of us, but
Right. Yeah.
So it required a lot of funding. It also, because my particular treatment study was social anxiety disorder, I was following an existing manualized treatment, which involved, as most anxiety treatments do, exposure. Now, exposure in social anxiety means having people looking at you while you're, say, talking, for example. So I had to have a team of individuals who were willing to act as audience for individuals to do exposure in session. And I did not have money to pay them. So these were the volunteers that I had to maintain as part of my team for the duration of study, because if they quit and came back, then I would have introduced different variable in the thing.
Oh,
That would
yeah,
have been a
yeah.
problem. So I had to do a lot of people management, also leadership,
Wow.
giving them
Yeah.
something that they value that was not money because I didn't have money, but could I involve them in part of my research? Could I, whatever they were interested in, I was trying to
Wow.
engage them. And so, and it worked. They stayed, yay. Right? Thank God. But at the end of all this, as the PhD concluded, defense done, and all this, and I was now turning to what I was going to do next,
Yeah.
I realized I really enjoyed all the management aspects of my research, the money management, the people management, the getting the projects to completion, all of that. And so I went to my PhD supervisor and I said, I'm going to need a recommendation letter. And she smiled and said, yay, postdoc. And I said, no. Okay. And she looked at me like, what? And she wrote it. And that's then what I did next.
Wow. So the MBA was right on the heels of getting the
Yes,
PhD?
right on the heels. Yes.
Wow.
It was
Why not? I mean, why not?
Why not? But why not? Because if you stop, it's hard to get back into the mode of doing the studies. Also, because I was doing it part-time, so really, I was at the time starting my first management job in that same organization, and so doing the MBA part-time evenings at the time. That's how that program was.
Yes,
it worked out. Pretty well.
Yeah. Wow. So it makes sense, though. It all makes sense. It really does.
It did somehow.
So, any more degrees after that?
No, I was interested in I am continuing to be interested in other things. However, there are enough fun things to do with what I have. Seriously, I do love school. I do love learning.
Yeah, I could tell. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But at some point, my husband did say, so we are clear that we're going to now work, right? He did say something like that. And I said, yes, we will work now.
or work for a living, because going to school is work too, right?
That's right. Yes.
But you did develop it sounds like a real interest in this, in workplace mental health, because and I can see where that even probably started much earlier on, and think about the mining communities and how that probably provoked some of the things that you were seeing then through a mental health lens. So take us forward from there. You got your PhD, you got your MBA, you were working for the Children and Family Services Organization. You really had a kind of a built-in population of clientele. And
yes, well, it was actually a private EAP, so it was not Children and Family Services. It was at the time called Wilson Benwell, which became Homewood Health here.
Okay.
But it was a private employee and family assistance program.
Okay.
These others function, absolutely.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted my first
EAP.
Yes. And so I had done clinical work for them, but now I was starting my MBA, and I very much wanted to start doing leadership type roles during the part-time MBA, so that I would not just be, the girl that goes to school kind of thing.
Right.
Or the singer that wants to sing, but has never actually sang in front of anyone, whatever. Just do it. Right. So I had told them, I really do want to move into these types of world. And they at some point came back to me and they said, okay, we need a national call center. We're all like individual small call centers right now. Do you want that? And I said, yes, I do. Now, call centers are the least sexy leadership thing you could ever do. Like, people were looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, you could be a PhD psychologist in your office seeing people, and you are going to do this. So at that point, my psychologist colleague gave up on me a little bit and said, she's a lost cause. Like, she's giving up the ship here. She's going to do this. So, but I knew I was the clear decision of why I was doing this.
Yes.
And it was as much to prove it to others as to prove it to me, to test it for myself. Do I actually, because I think I really want this, but do I actually? And so I did, and it was the least easy leadership role you can think of. And if anyone
Absolutely.
ever worked in a call center, it is entering a fire every single day.
Yes, it is.
So that's how it feels. That's how it is. And I loved it. So I got my answer. And then from there, moved in different roles in the organization.
It is an amazing, in a way, a call center is almost its own living laboratory in terms of figuring out, the dynamics between people and how to really manage an operation and customer service, the whole thing. I have had clients who were oversee call centers, and I had a fabulous podcast guest, Liz Kislick, who started her career working in and overseeing call centers. She has amazing stories, and now her specialty is executive coaching and helping other people work through their conflicts. So it serves a purpose, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So take us forward from there. And you've written a book, The Resilient. Talk about resilience.
Yes. Well, so from there, did different roles, of course, and all, and then in other different types of organization and all these things. And in the last 7 years, I've now been on my own doing mostly speaking, executive coaching, and still have a small practice as psychologist. In all of these, I mostly work with the professionals and leaders. And in my work, I do bring both, of course, elements from psychology and sort of business, more on the psychology side in psychology, more on the business side in coaching, and both of them in speaking. And what happened that got me to the book, because no, I had not set out to write a book. If you had talked to me, I don't know, 10 years ago, I would have said, nope, not on the radar. Nope.
Yeah.
But what happened is I heard a number of times, not just once or twice, a few times, I would work with people and then they would say, wow, this is so helpful, game changer for me. So glad I have this now. I only wish I knew this sooner. And so that's the thing. I always knew, I wish I knew this sooner, that at some point got into my head. And I was like, oh, wait a second. If I write it, it will get in someone's hands sooner. And that would be good. So that's where I thought, yes. And so that's how I thought, okay, doing the book.
Yeah. And so the book is really a reflection of, it sounds like, many years of experience and really pulling together all the lessons learned and really how do you approach, a healthier work environment going forward.
Yes,
right?
It is pulling all the years for real, literally for real, because some stories are coming from a broad range of years.
Right.
All to inform how, so it's bringing psychology, what we know from psychology we need for our lives in general, and it's bringing the tools we use in business when we are making strategic decision making and strategic planning, strategic plans, bringing the two together, because often I would hear, and I see it in my clients, they have the information about what they should do.
Yes.
But all of our lives are very full, sometimes overflowing. So no, there isn't a way to fit these great, beautiful things in our lives.
Right.
Missing, I realized, is that consideration to your unique context, which is that notion of, therefore, let's be strategic, taking your context into account so we can create, so you can create. I walk you through it. There will be in the show notes worksheets, which you can use or with the book. But in that they don't take that long to do either. So they're very concise and to the point to help each of us at any given moment, because it will evolve over time, to have a plan that works. Yeah. And that's the key difference, because then, and of course, you know this also as a coach working with your clients, we need the action. All the understanding in the world is not very sufficient.
Right.
It's what do we do now with this?
Right.
And that's where the book brings you.
I love that, because I think there are a lot of very seasoned professionals out there who get very stuck. They see what's going on, they see where the issues are, but they don't have either the time or don't have the context to create the plan or don't know what should be in the plan to move beyond that point. And yet, if they had that available to them, or, some people don't even know that coaches exist. And so, because I know that, because when I've worked with some people for the first time, they're like, I didn't know there were people like you out there to work with. And once they do, they realize, oh, now I see a way forward. And so I think your book is instrumental for really helping people find their way through something, but they bring something to that process too.
Right.
It's not like you can tell them everything they need to know. They have the insight they need, but then you offer them, really a way to see their way through, to start to really look at these things and create plans to move through them and start to resolve them.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
That's wonderful. That's so important. So important.
Yes.
And,
some people have given it to their team for them to read as well, or just for themselves. And the book itself is focused on you, the leader, or you, the high-level professional first, even if in the work environment, it is a system where there's us as individuals, there's the teams we're part of or leading, and the overall organization. And I do talk about this larger system perspective as well. There's a chapter just on team resilience. And in order to do any good in there, we first need to figure out our own customized strategic plan. So that's where this book comes in.
Oh, perfect. I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. The leader themselves has to kind of take a look in the mirror first in order to then try to bring the team along on the plan.
Or even be able, because sometimes we just don't have it in us. Like, it's demanding a fairly good level of energy, clarity, and all that kind of thing. So we need to make sure we have this to bring it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you are doing a lot of speaking these days, trying to spread the good word about the resilience plan, I assume.
That's right. The resilience plan and any resilience aspect in the workplace. A lot of the conversations are tying this to AI that's coming into our lives even more. And our ways to increase our resilience specifically as it relates to AI. So a lot of that too. So it's all around resilience in the workplace, and then it comes in different ways. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's terrific. So if somebody listening to this wants to find out more about how to follow your work and take a look at your book and all that, what's the best place for them to find you?
Two options. LinkedIn is the social where I'm most active. I'm active on others as well, but that's probably where I would go first. Okay. And because then you can also add your voice to the conversation, which is nice. So that's a good place there. You'll find me there. We can put the link in the show notes if you want.
Everything will be in the show notes. Yep.
If not, theresilienceplan.com. Surprisingly, it was not taken. Theresilienceplan.com.
That is terrific. Great.
It was waiting for me.
And I know we have all of your social media and your website links, and all of that will be in the show notes. Perfect. So one last question, even though I feel like I could talk to you for another session here. So, you've made a lot of changes throughout your career, even though it feels like you followed this psychology thread. It's clear that you've worked with a lot of different people and looked down a lot of different lanes as you've moved forward and had to make some strategic decisions along the way for yourself. So what would you say to someone who's thinking about what's next for them in terms of a key piece of advice, or how you would suggest they go as they're moving forward?
Well, part of me feels like saying, well, the more you can, if you're looking to figure out your next phase, that in itself means you're in between phases, right? Mm-hmm. Which means you're going to need as much resilience as you can. So I would say, first recommendation, invest in your own resilience in this moment. And again, just using even the sheets that will be in the show notes is a way to connect that planning with your own values, your own context, and that will help make sure you invest in your resilience, because it's a beautiful and exciting time. It's also a demanding time.
Yes.
So let's make sure we increase it. The second thing I would say is stay curious.
Ah, yes.
We like curious, don't we?
Yes.
That puts you in a place where you're open-minded, you're finding the luck where it is, you're open to opportunities, you're planting seeds, you're engaged with what's going on. And especially in a transition in between phase, we want to open doors, open options. And so that curious mindset, that approach, that deliberate attention to what can be, I think will continue to feed your next steps, whatever they are. And then you can come and talk to Tammy about what you did.
Well, and I would say that your story has a lot of that sprinkled throughout. I mean, it's clear that you stayed open and curious at so many junctures. And by doing so, it enabled you to step into all kinds of things that ended up getting you to the next place and to where you are today. So I'm going to say thank you so much for being here today. And I want to encourage people to get their hands on the resilience plan and to follow your work, because I have a feeling there's a lot more we can learn here. So, MH, thank you so much for being here today. This was wonderful.
It was wonderful for me too. Thank you so much, Tammy, for the conversation.
Thanks for sticking around to the end of my interview with Dr. M.H. Pelletier. What is your key takeaway from our conversation? If you are interested in any of the resources mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them in the show notes on my website at tammygoularloeb.com/podcast. Just look for episode 265. And while you're there, you can also subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes. If you're feeling it, please help me to inspire more people to grow their careers by clicking on the Apple Podcasts button and leave an honest rating and review. Those ratings and reviews help boost the visibility of the podcast, which of course then will help more people. Are you anticipating your next professional move? Check out my award-winning book, Work from the Inside Out: Break Through 9 Common Obstacles and Design a Career That Fulfills You. It's available through my website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, or through your local library. You can also help sustain this podcast by buying me a cup of coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TammyGL. Since this podcast is self-funded, your support is acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.